Pleasant day to all of you, especially to our beloved instructor, Mr. Jomader Omungkut. Now, in this video, let me discuss my part, the psychological egoism. So, psychological egoism affirms that every action we do is always motivated by the want or desire to do it, or that we want to do something because it makes us feel good. So in short, psychological egoism is we do act on our own self-interest. So let me tell you about what does our manual book mean. So, psychological egoism is the belief that all human actions are ultimately motivated by self-interest. So according to Thomas Hobbes, when we examine various motives, we can eliminate those that appear altruistic and find that we are actually driven by self-centered desires. And for instance, acts of charity are seen as a means to discipline, power, and superiority over the less fortunate. So similarly, feelings of pity towards others are rooted in our own aversion to experiencing pain and suffering. So, in essence, our actions and emotions are centered around ourselves with a focus on protecting our own well-being and asserting our dominance. This perspective suggests that human nature is inherently self-centered, with individuals constantly preoccupied with their own interests and desires. It draws parallels to the character Gollum from The Lord of the Ring, who obsesses over the ring and refers to it possessively as my precious. Psychological egoism challenges the notions of genuine altruism, suggesting that even seemingly selfless acts are ultimately driven by self-interest. It also argues that all our actions came up by our own interest or by self-interests. One argument claims that altruism is based or is false because we always act based on our wants and desires. Similarly, another argument suggests that we do things because they make us feel good. However, we do things we do not want to do but feel obligated to ought to do. And for example, studying for an exam instead of going to a party. While psychological egoism has some validity, so it cannot be true all the time, that as it commits the logical fallacy of sweeping generalization. It fails to account for actions done out of necessity or duty, undermining its claim or universal self-interest. So, in this textbook, let's read here about the two arguments. So, psychological egoism relies on two arguments. The first states that altruism is false because every action we do is always motivated by the want or desire to do it. With the same conclusion, the other affirms that we want to do something because it makes us feel good. So people's willingness to help others, even at the cost of their own lives, disproves psychological egoism. Selfless acts, like sacrificing oneself to save others, cannot be explained by self-serving motives or personal satisfaction alone. Accepting psychological egoism as more true is futile because feeling good after helping others doesn't necessarily indicate selfishness. So, A genuine concern for others can coexist with the positive feelings that the result from selfless action. So let us take this as an example here in this textbook that we can remember about these are sacrifices that parents make for the sake of their children. So there are lots of sacrifices in which our parents done for us, to us. A mother certainly has genuine concern for her children or for her child in acts of sacrifice by willingly give up and risk many things of herself. The mark of this authenticity lies on the fact that the stake is high or the risk of losing a lot remains a possibility, but she still does it anyway. So, however, witnessing a successful outcome of her sacrifices, it is of course natural and understandable for her to enjoy some good feelings such as the joy of seeing her child graduating from college. So, it is a happiness to our parents rather that they saw us succeeding. They saw us successfully reaching our goals. So let's move forward to the deepest errors of the psychological egoism. The deepest errors of psychological egoism lie in its controlling assumptions and tendency to make sweeping generalization without considering exceptions. Intelligent individuals may be attracted to it due to its theoretical simplicity and rejection of human pretensions. However, reasonable thinking and critical discernment can help overcome this confusion. So, distinguishing selfishness or the pleasure seeking from self interest or the well being promotion can resolve the misconception. So let's take the example here from this textbook. An illustration of a selfish act is when a person takes a prohibited drug for the pleasure of getting the approval of his or her friends, despite the fact that his or her physical and mental health are at risk, including the hurt that is caused to people around him or her. He or she still continues to do this with no regard of his or her life being destroyed. On the other hand, a self-interested act is refusing drug abuse at the expense of losing his or her friends, or for the sake of the well-being, both of oneself and others around, especially his or her loved ones. So it states that if you intake the prohibited drugs, it may affect your entire life. Not only your physical health or your mental health, but your entire life. Also, this includes your loved ones, such as parents, brothers, sisters, relatives, titas, titos, etc. And with that, you are not thinking about what you will lose or what you're gonna lose for the sake of your friend. So since we are done in thinking critically about what is the psychological egoism and its errors, we can assert clarifications by: first, it is false that all actions are done from self-interest, by which it is clearly stated that not all actions are driven by self-interest. People engage in behaviors motivated by empathy, compassion, and a sense of duty. Selfishness is a fundamental aspect of human nature, contradicting the notion that all actions are self-interested. The second one is: it is false that all actions are done from self-interest, wherein it clearly modifies that not every action is motivated by self-interest. People often act out of empathy, compassion, or a sense of duty towards others. This contradicts the belief that all actions are solely driven by a personal gain or benefit. And the last one, it is false that concern for one's own welfare is always incompatible with genuine concern for others. For instance, love others as you love yourself, in which it explains that contrary to the belief that self-interest and concern for others are mutually exclusive, the principle of love others as you love yourself demonstrate that genuine care for others can coexist with caring for oneself. So it emphasizes the compatibility of self-welfare and concern for others. In short, psychological egoism means we do act in our own self-interest. Ito rin ay nangangahulugang ang lahat ng ating mga kilos ay pinangungunahan ng sariling interes. Ito ay nagsasabing ang ating mga gawa ay laging batay sa ating mga kagustuhan at pagnanais. Halimbawa na lamang rito ay sinasabi nito na ang pagiging altruistic o pag-aalay ng sarili para sa iba ay hindi totoo, sapagkat ang lahat ng ating mga kilos ay nagmumula lahat or lamang sa hangarin na mapakinabangan natin ito. Gayunpaman, hindi ito lubusang tama sapagkat may mga pagkakataon na ginagawa natin ang mga bagay na hindi natin gustong gawin. Ngunit, kailangan o nararapat na gawin ito. Ito rin ay nagpapakita na hindi lahat ng kilos ay batay lamang sa sariling interes. At may mga pagkakataon na tunay na iniisip natin ang kapakanan ng iba. Sa kabilang dako, ang pinakamalalim na kamalian sa psychological egoism ay ang pag-aakalang lahat ng ating mga kilos ay palaging batay sa sariling interes. Hindi ito ganap na tama sapagkat may mga pagkakataon na ginagawa natin ang mga bagay na hindi lamang para sa ating sarili, kundi para na rin sa kapakanan ng ibang tao. Ito ay nagpapakita na hindi lahat ng kilos ay ay batay lamang sa sariling interes. So, once again, have a great day everyone, and I have here, for the short recap, the psychological egoism states that we do act in our own self-interest, in which that statement is not clearly na nagpapatunayan talaga na yan ay tunay o totoo. Sapagkat may mga kamalian or may mga misconception na nailathala batay sa aking pagsasalaysay sa inyo kung ano ang mga kamalian or mga misinterpretation or the deepest errors ng psychological egoism. I hope na may natutunan kayong lahat sa video lecture na ito. At sana'y maging gabay natin ito saan man dako tayo ng mundo magtungo. So, God bless everyone, and thank you for listening and watching this video.